We got us a corpse and cartridge occasion.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. In today's video, I want to talk a little bit about the lore of Fahkumram, the character, because in my opinion, I think a lot of people misunderstand what this character is. We look at him being tall, intimidating, scars, tattoos. He looks wild. People think of him as like evil. And then also you got to talk about that balance inside of it, where he is balanced like a monster and looks like a monster. Of course, people are going to think this guy is the worst person to ever walk the earth. But in actuality, that's by design of the developers, well, the design part, right? According to the Tekken development team, their guiding principle when designing Fahkumram was to make him so intimidating that one looks makes you want to turn, tail, and run. And in my opinion, I think they did that. The over-designedness of Fahkumram was 100% intentional. I know that's a critique of the character, but from the developer's perspective, that's exactly how they wanted them to look. Something that I think is interesting about Fahkumram is his personality, because this is where the true character shines. Fahkumram is a brutal Muay Thai fighter who is largely stoic and doesn't seem to enjoy talking much. In spite of his intimidating appearance, he appears to possess a humble demeanor, with one of his intros asking an opponent, what are they fighting for? When we take a little detour and we look at his intro, you can see he says, you have any reasons to fight. And this is the thing about Fahkumram, is that the reason why he is fighting is not because he wants to destroy, it's not because he wants to hurt, but it's because he has to. Fahkumram is in fact a prisoner who is being used as a weapon, and we don't know who is pulling the strings. And when he says how many is left, he is referring to the fact that whoever is controlling him is dropping him from the sky on this giant metal thing, and they're using him as a weapon against we don't know who. But he's done this so many times to now he's wondering, how many people do I have to fight left? How many targets is left? When can I go free? He's a prisoner. We often talk about characters who suffered the most in Tekken. One time I did a tier list, and maybe I'll do another one for Tekken 8. But I think Fahkumram is probably high up on that list. When he was 12 years old, he was struck by lightning. 18, he became a Muay Thai champion. When he was 24, he was abducted by the military. And he's been doing this all the way up until the age of 28. In Tekken 8, he will be 29, so we'll see where his story continues from there. But if we continue looking at his personality, it says, Fahkumram possesses a sense of honor and justice, initially refusing to engage in match fixing. He is motivated to fight for his captors by the threat of his family's life, indicating his love for them and his willingness to do anything for them. Now, this is when Fahkumram's family is introduced. He is captured, and now we know why he is fighting, because whoever captured him seemingly has also captured his family, and they're using that as a weapon against him. Because something that's interesting to note is when you look at Fahkumram's concept art, this is a prisoner. This is someone who doesn't have any freedom. And when you see his long hair look super crazy, and you see like this one, how he has like the shackles on his arm, this is how Fahkumram really would look. You can see he has a muzzle right there, right? The reason why they probably didn't go with this is because they wanted him to look more Muay Thai. This one looks more like captured, abducted. And then even these ones down here where you can see the shackles on his arms. What I do want to note about this is that, and he also has an orange hair, right? What I do want to note about this is that in Fahkumram's main design, the one that they went with for Tekken 7 and also Tekken 8, you can see that he doesn't have any of those shackles. Nothing around his neck, nothing around his arms. In his Tekken 8 trailer, we saw that he literally has enough power to kick that metal thing and break it and free himself. But the reason why he doesn't is because, once again, his family. If he didn't have his family, he can very well escape and these guys wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Yes, they probably will chase him down to the end of the earth, but him being captured, redeployed, that is the psychological suffering that this character experiences, where he can escape, but he doesn't know where his family is, and he will not be able to make it to him before they took action against him. But if you continue and you look at a little bit deeper into Fahkumram's story, it gets pretty interesting. He was ambushed and kept prisoner by the military. His family was taken hostage, leaving no choice to Fahkumram but to comply with the orders of his captors. Orders to fight in an underground battle rings. So this is how it started, right? Unable to see a way out, the once proud champion gradually lost himself in the more extreme acts of violence and rage. One thing that I think is really interesting about Fahkumram too is he has no relations to any character. When you look up his character relations, the only one that shows up is Marduk, and this is because he was fighting him during the trailer. So when he shows up in Tekken 8, they're going to expand on his story the same way they did with Leroy Smith. Leroy Smith was only connected to Heihachi. In Tekken 7, they brought Fang into the picture, Nina, Kazuya, Jin, right? So with Fahkumram, it's going to be the same thing. We're going to see which characters he likes, which character he doesn't like, and we're also going to see which characters he's after. One thing you have to note about Fahkumram as well is that he is not stupid. The story says after spending days on the brink of death, he managed to make a miraculous recovery, combining his tremendous physical strength and technical mastery with a clever tactical brain. He became a Muay Thai champion at the time of 18. So this is something you also got to note, right? Whenever you have like one of these, big monster type characters, everyone immediately assumes that they're stupid. Like Ogre. When you look at Ogre, you think he's just a wandering animal trying to just eat people, but he is very strategic. Ogre speaks many languages. He is a very complex organism. He has a plan, a goal. Now, we never seen that fully explored because they just dropped the ball on him, right? But Ogre, he was going around trying to collect all of these different fighters' energies for a reason. What that reason was, we will never know because he was never able to defeat Jin Kazama and take his devil gene from him. Imagine what that would have looked like. But this video is about Fahkumram. Let's keep going. Now, when Fahkumram was 24 years old, this is during his martial arts career, he was approached by a group of people who told him to throw the match. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Bruce went through the same thing as well. Who are these people going, and maybe even Steve Fox, who are these people going around approaching these champions and telling them to throw the match? Regardless, Fahkumram said no. He didn't comply and he knocked out his opponent one hit. And that upset them. They tried to murder Fahkumram, but he was just too strong. They couldn't kill him, even after sending several assassins. So this guy Fahkumram has been through it all, pretty much. His history, his story is very in-depth. Now, after all of that, the military came to get him, and they were holding him in a very secure location. As we previously mentioned, his wife and daughter was taken and held hostage, and leaving Fahkumram with no choice, but he had to basically follow the instructions of his captors, and he started to participate in underground tournaments. But also, here's the weird thing too. They had Fahkumram fight against animals. He is fighting against tigers. He also fought against bears. This is why he also looks super jacked up as well, because whoever is in control of this guy is treating him as like he's like a circus animal. Do all of these tricks and performances, but also we want you to go fight in underground tournaments. But then also now we're going to drop you in presumably the King of the Iron Fist tournament. Who is doing this to Fahkumram? That is the biggest question of all of this, because those guys, wow. The last thing that the story tells us about the character Fahkumram is that Fahkumram became more and more desperate and disillusioned and gradually lost himself in more extreme acts of violence and rage. 4 years later, he is now 28. With the world embroiled in battle between the Mishima Zaibatsu and G Corporation, the military forces controlling Fahkumram determined that the Mishima Zaibatsu posed a threat to the nation and dispatched Fahkumram on a new mission. His task was to represent the country at the King of the Iron Fist tournament and claim victory there, with a promise that depending on the result he achieved, his family may be set free. Fahkumram entered the fray determined to win liberty for him and his family once and for all. Okay. That is terrible. That ending right there, is terrible. They kind of give us the answer on who's controlling him, and it's definitely not the Mishima Zaibatsu, because Fahkumram was sent in to basically try to establish some kind of order in all of that. But then the part there where it says it delivers him in the King of the Iron Fist tournament, this is the critique that I have for many characters in the story who have a problem with the Mishima Zaibatsu, is how they all go into the tournament. They go into the tournament, which we know is rigged, and they try to end the war that way. We saw Victor and Lars for the first time ever not do this. Instead of entering the war, instead of entering the tournament, they just ambush Kazuya at the site. This is what I don't understand, is like, if this unknown group controlling Fahkumram really wanted to establish some kind of peace, just drop that metal chamber that Fahkumram is imprisoned on, drop that right on Kazuya as he's at a tournament, and then boom, Fahkumram, goes to town on Kazuya, and then if he lives, he lives. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But at least you are directly fighting the guy in charge. Why do so many characters who want a piece of Kazuya go through so many different random battles in the King of Iron Fist tournament to try and get a piece of him? That didn't make sense. I don't like that part for the story. Hopefully the developers get rid of that and they add in something new for Tekken 8, because I really think it diminished the importance of what he's going through in his story. And you can also see how hard the developers try to twist every narrative into the King of the Iron Fist tournament when it doesn't need to be that way. Fahkumram being his character that's off doing his own thing, having his own story, is really interesting, and it makes the world feel much bigger. When you try to intertwine everything in the King of the Iron Fist tournament, it just doesn't look good.